is making its way to Law and Order SVU. The showrunner for the show, speaking on the Hollywood Reporter podcast, saying that Floyd's death and the protests that followed have come up in the show. Showrunner Warren Light also saying the writer's room will be making changes to amplify some new and fresh and different voices. And for USA Radio News, I'm Chris Barnes.
Inspired by our German artisan roots, Süß Caramel has redefined the art of caramel making. Slow crafted, all natural, and preservative free with uncompromising standards. Cooked gently in small batches to create velvety textures and layers of flavor like no other caramel you've ever experienced. It is our sincere hope that you enjoy each Süß Caramel as much as we enjoy making it for you. I'm Tammy Fahey, and I never tire of hearing how much people enjoy my caramels. Please visit SüßCaramel.com to place your order and to see a listing of stores that carry our amazing caramels.
It's 9:06.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and/or associates.
Welcome to Inspiring Hope with Lois Hermann, a leading expert in professional coaching, clinical hypnosis, and energy clearing. Lois is an award-winning author of Chronicles of Hope. She has decades of experience in advanced hypnosis techniques, has conducted highly effective success coaching programs that have helped clients discover ways to achieve success, empower themselves, their families, as well as holistic practitioners to expand their practices. Get ready to be empowered with your host, Lois Hermann.
And good morning. Welcome to Inspiring Hope. I'm your host, Lois Hermann, and I'm here to inspire you with positive messages and celebrate everyday people who are making a difference in our world. When we focus our thoughts and energies on what we love to do, we create powerful shifts that cause us to be more positive and peaceful. As we lift our energy, we empower everyone around us. If we each do what we can to make small shifts in awareness, from happiness to kindness to healthy habits, we create ripples of hope. Join us as catalysts for positive change for our families, our communities, and our world at large. So welcome today. We've been having some fun, interesting, different technical challenges these past several weeks. And even today in the middle of this, we're all set up and everything just crashed. So we had to do some energy clearing, some space clearing. And it's interesting. That's what I've been immersed in this past week. But I want to know, did you get a chance to listen to Justin and Nicole's radio show just before this one? You get a double dose of me. I was delighted to be on their show last Wednesday and had so much fun. It was a lot easier to be a guest on a show, let me tell you. And I just have so much respect for the work that they are doing to help our community and the eagerness that they're showing to learn and grow spiritually. I'm going to let Justin share his exciting news on his Wednesday show. But meanwhile, spoiler alert, I'll just say a great big congratulations. And he's going to be on our show Father's Day. I'm really, really looking forward to that. So be sure to tune in. So, question, are you enjoying this beautiful weather? Oh my goodness, the rhodies in my gardens are absolutely glorious, along with the Miss lilacs, the Japanese irises, even the wigelia and the viburnum are starting to bloom. I totally feel like I live in a garden of paradise, and I'm so grateful for their beauty and for the time that I have at home this year to tend, water, and truly appreciate them. The past several years, my life has been so busy, I truly had quit smelling the flowers. I have to say that I feel so much more connected and in balance now than ever. So what kind of flowering shrubs and trees are you noticing in and around your yard and neighborhood? There's so much beauty. We need to just take the time to smell the flowers, to truly appreciate the beauty that nature gives to us. And I'm really glad to have the flowers surrounding me because my nose this past week has been stuck in the computer for intense online learning. I presented on Inspiring Hope and attended 2 virtual conferences that were running simultaneously this week. Originally, they were scheduled a week apart, but they ended up virtually being shared at the same time. So my brain has been flipping back and forth between the two, and it's been wonderful. One is HypnoBiz, which is all about hypnosis techniques for your business and for helping clients. So one of my favorite sessions that I listened to was on soul wounds and how the things that have happened to us in our early childhood affect our view of life. So that was really powerful. And then the other one that I've been attending has been the Dowser Society. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with what dowsers are, but dowsers use pendulums and divining rods and different types of tools to test energy in and around people, places, and things. And I tell you what, it's been interesting. One of the most fascinating things was about geopathic stress lines that go through buildings and affect the energy in those buildings. So dowsers actually shift negative energy, which is what I do with hypnosis. My mission is to be a catalyst for positive change, be it in your space, in your heart, in your family, helping to shift the negative to be more positive. And I have to tell you, last night I had the privilege of listening to Dr. Beverly Rubik deliver the keynote address. And similar to the Genome Project, she is known for her pioneering research in the field of the Biofield Project as relates to energy medicine. She's a professor at the Energy Medicine University in California and the College of Integrative Medicine and Health Sciences. And she described the biofield as the organizing energy field of life that is central to healing and integrative health. In essence, the biofield technically is our aura, our chi, our prana that extends from the human body. And as she describes it, it entangles each person with one another, the biosphere and the cosmos. So a person's biofield is considered to be central to many types of healing therapies, including all types of energy healing. So Dr. Rubik discussed her research over many years, assessing the biofield with some techniques that are similar to Kirlian photography. And she has shown amazing energy measurements before, during, and after energy healing practices such as Qigong, meditation, and yoga. And she actually demonstrated measurable evidence of increased energy with treatments like Reiki, infrared therapies, focused thought like meditation and hypnosis, and acupuncture and magnet therapy. So you're listening to Inspiring Hope with Lois Hermann at WSMN 1590. And speaking of magnets, we have an amazing person joining us today who is an expert in many things, including magnet-based therapies. Janelle Salzman is an expert at getting to the root of disease in humans. Her background is in Western or allopathic medicine, coupled with Eastern medicine known as Ayurveda, and now she is a specialist in this energy medicine that Dr. Rubik is talking about. Janelle is an expert in the holistic approach to wellness, delving into root cause of dis-ease, which disturbs the natural flow of health. Please help me welcome my dear friend and colleague at the New Hampshire Health and Wellness Center. Hi, Janelle. Are you there this morning?
I am. Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you just fine. How are you?
Great. I'm doing well, thanks. I am doing well. It's such an interesting time because normally I would be with you in the studio, and instead I find it so comical. I'm out in my nice quiet car because I have 6 teenagers sleeping inside.
Oh my goodness! Well, you could have come in. We just, we would tend to wear a mask, but
it's nice and peaceful. I have my coffee. It's beautiful outside. It's perfect.
Isn't it interesting? People are finding very innovative ways to connect, and I love it. I'm finding that with my hypnosis sessions. I'm doing everything online now, and so many people are loving. They're doing the hypnosis right there in their car because the seat reclines. Nobody bothers them.
That's right. If I was in there, it would be breakfast duty on the spot. So I escaped. But it's so nice to chat with you, as always.
6? What do you mean 6 teenagers? You've got, I know
I've got my 4.
Yeah.
And then they have friends sleeping over. So,
They're always...
Actually 7. Sorry, three of the 4 have one over, so 7.
Of course. Teenagers are always in multiples.
Yeah, so seven sleepy kids that will be rousing soon.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Well, if they're teenagers, they won't rouse quite so
That's true.
early. That's for sure. So tell us a little bit about you and your background and how I gave a little tiny taste, but tell us more.
Sure. So I graduated from Quinnipiac College, now Quinnipiac University, back in 1996. And I knew very early on that I wanted to be in the healthcare field. I didn't know how. I knew it actually probably my sophomore year of high school. And I'd heard about occupational therapy and the premise behind it of getting a person back to their full independence. And at the time, gosh, I wish I knew then what I know now, but it was very much hands-on and getting dressed, learning how to dress yourself again after a stroke with one-sided weakness, or after a hip replacement, and learning how to cook again. And so I love that. That's what brought me to New Hampshire, actually, from Connecticut, and worked at St. Joe's Hospital for many years, and then dabbled in pediatrics. I had my own pediatric sensory integration practice for quite a while that I loved the kids, and I then continued on my journey with doing home care and hospice, and I did that through St. Joe's also. And about 2010, 2011, I said, I'm looking for something else, something to enrich my pathway of healing and helping people. So I decided to investigate the Eastern world a little bit more, and that's when I learned about Ayurveda. And Ayurveda, for those of you who are not familiar, it is the oldest holistic medicine from India, and it actually is the oldest, most widely practiced medicine in the world. And basically the reason I loved it is because it has areas of herbology and cooking, and it gets to the deep root, and I know that's what we're chatting about today. It gets to the root of the issue with the person. It doesn't as much look at diagnostics as it does condition, and how do we get to the root of what caused it. So I went to school at Kripalu, and I studied there for quite a while, and then I practiced. That's how I met you. I practiced together back in 2012, and that was a wonderful journey. And I continue to do my Ayurvedic practice, but I then, a few years afterwards, missed the clinical hands-on piece of being an OT. So I had heard about, kind of put it out to the universe, like I'm looking for something more hands-on. And in 1 week, 4 people told me about biomagnetic pair therapy.
You are a master at manifesting, lady.
Yeah, well, I was shocked. I was shocked. Well, it came, and I there was one spot left in the training for the Lyme Magnetic Protocol, and I did it, and I haven't looked up since. And
wasn't that the first training? Was that, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't that the first training? Yeah.
Yeah, it was the first formal. I think she
Yes.
had one prior, but yeah, it was first or second formal training, and it's grown exponentially since then, which I'm very grateful for. So, but the beautiful thing is I'm able to take all of my areas of learning and background, and I have my Reiki background too, and then put it all together to just focus on the person and see what works best for them. So I've never really left anything behind, just brought it forward.
Exactly. It all integrates together. And so can you tell us a little bit about the biomagnetic therapy protocol, or a little bit more about it? Because it's interesting. It ties in with the dowsing, number one, and then it ties in with Dr. Rubik's discussion about how magnetic energy heals.
Yeah, you sparked my interest with that for sure. I'm going to dive in myself because so what we know is that magnetism is one of the 4 most powerful forces in the universe, and the beautiful thing is through biomagnetic pair therapy. So we say pair because it's a pair of magnets. It's the North Pole and the South Pole magnet. So when 2 magnets of equal power are used together on the body, strategically placed in different areas depending on the actual energy of the infection or the actual physical placement of where infection hides in the body, because sometimes it goes off of energy meridians, which is more, along the lines of acupuncture.
Exactly.
And things like that, yeah. So when they're placed on the body, pairs, so it could be 1 pair, it could be 30 pair, it will start to work on the polarity of the infection, so that each little cell has infection in the body. Each little infected cell has polarity, and it also works on the pH of the body. So the body loves a beautiful pH neutral, and infection has a hard time living in a pH neutral environment. So these magnets create it, and then what happens is they start to weaken. And the beautiful thing is the immune system wakes up. That's been working so hard and has pretty much gotten tired over a while from fighting infection. It starts to wake up because it gets unburdened, and then it's able to help break down infection, and the body naturally self-heals. That's the whole point, is let this body self-heal. And then we see infection load go down, and we see immunity go up, and that's how people's symptoms start to go away. It's a symptom-based therapy. And I practice a Lyme magnetic protocol created by Joan Randall, and it specifies tick-borne or vector-borne illness, Lyme disease, but I would really say that the protocol is so rich with so many strains of infection and areas of detox that you can tackle a lot of other quote-unquote conditions outside of Lyme disease, which is really my area of interest, I would say, these days.
It started with the Lyme protocol, and I know, we live in the county in the world that has the highest instance of Lyme, and I myself have been through the protocol a couple of times now. My husband and I both have struggled or have had, my husband specifically had undiagnosed Lyme for some time and was very, very sick, and I had the awareness that there's something wrong and was actually, I was treated, but I ended up coming for the magnets after I had been treated, and I still had co-infection. So everybody thinks Lyme is one thing. Lyme, there's so many different things. I know I've heard that every tick is a potential dirty needle. It may inject a different type of microorganism or bacteria into you. So it's not just Lyme. Lyme is one area of disease. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. And another interesting thing is I would say about 98% of my people have never found a tick on them that have positive showing of vector-borne illness. And we say vector-borne, and what that basically means is it might not have come from a tick. So we see spiders, fleas, mosquitoes. There's a lot of other things that carry these co-infections. So, Lyme is more of your Borrelia. That's your classic that people will hear about. And then from there's other co-infections of Babesia and Bartonella and Ehrlichia and Anaplasma. So many different types, and each of these categories have many strains of infection beneath them. And what I find the most fascinating thing about it is usually the first time someone gets infected, maybe even the second or third, their body can handle it because the immunity should be fairly strong, and our bodies are meant to fight it off. It usually takes multiple exposures, or it takes other infections or weaknesses that were already in the body. So if someone has strep, a lot as a child had chronic strep, or they had vaccine issues because their bodies couldn't process the amount of vaccine injury that might have happened, or they have some maybe lead exposure or something like that, that their cup, how I explain it to people is the cup is just a little too full. And what is that tipping point that's going to spill it over, and then they're going to show up with symptoms of tick-borne illness? It could be joint pain, could be GI issues, could be mental health issues. So it's very comprehensive. It's a very curious disease process, and I think that's why our society doesn't have the greatest handle on it, because it's so individual per the person, and that's why I feel the magnet protocol works so well, because we're able to assess each person individually and how the infections, whether from in utero when they were very, very little, all the way up to their current age, what is built up in that cup that has made them now not feel well.
And what's interesting is one of the guides in the Chronicles said that there is a cure for every disease, and that cure is unique to the individual.
Love it. Yep.
Yeah.
And I believe that because I see it every day. I could have two people. Well, I really haven't seen two people with the same infection load, but very similar. Like I have two people who come to me for adult onset epilepsy, and we wonder. They say to me, "Can you fix epilepsy?" And I say, "I do not really fix or treat disease. I don't treat the diagnosis, but let's take a dig under the layers and see what's there. Well, one person was loaded with concussions, old concussion buildup.
Wow.
That it might have taken a couple little other infections that spilled it into the brain and made the body seize. And the other one, it was full-on tick-borne illness. So same seizure-like activity, two totally different causes.
Similar symptoms. So in
That's
an
right.
allopathic world, they might treat the symptom with a one-size-fits-all type of approach. Versus this, you're, again, getting to the root, getting to understand what's really going on here. And if people have different levels of autoimmune issues, then they're going to respond and react differently. And I want to just let the listeners know that you're listening to Inspiring Hope this morning at WSMN 1590, and I'm here with Janelle Salzman, who is a magnetic protocol specialist. I want to call her an expert, and she's talking to us about the magnetic protocol that she practices at New Hampshire Health and Wellness Center, and there are a couple of other Lyme protocol specialists there too. Biomagnetic protocol. I need to say this correctly. So tell us more about. I know that I've been to you and the other associates there a couple of times. For instance, last year, I actually had a tick on me, and I immediately went in, and it was actually within a week of each other. My husband had a tick. We're avid gardeners. We're out in the gardens all the time. So he had a tick. I had a tick. We went in to see the team there. Sure enough, he had evidence of some tick-borne illness, and they put a couple of magnets on him a couple of times in the right places, and it was gone. When I was tested, I showed nothing. So not every tick carries something, but you know what? This, to me, it alleviates the fear. So many people have a fear of going out in the gardens or going out in nature because they're afraid they're going to get a tick. But I have this, to me, it's a safety net. If I get a tick, I'm just going to call Janelle or Julianne or Karen and get in and check me. Let me see.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, we have a wonderful team. Our whole team is incredible there. We have, as I'm sure spoken about, is our naturopathic team and nutrition and the whole group. It's fast.
Dr. Chan has been on.
Right?
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah,
it's wonderful. And to make sure, I want to make something super clear too, because I still have my medical license, and we would be in deep trouble without Western medicine because
absolutely.
We need surgery, we need antibiotics, we need things. My biggest passion about it is we treat chronic conditions with acute medications, and that's where we run into trouble because we're putting Band-Aids on things. So getting to the root makes such a difference, and then we can pepper it in both the Western and Eastern worlds, and it really does work better that way, I feel.
Absolutely, and I feel the same way with hypnosis. So many people who are having stress and anxiety and different types of emotional issues, when I can help them get to the root, like for instance, one of the things that the classes that I attended this week was on the origin of the wounds, the soul wounds, things that have happened early on in our life that affect how we look at it and how we handle life. So with hypnosis, I can help people to get to the root of the mental emotional aspect of life, helping them to understand, oh, this happened to me when I was 2 or 3 or whatever. Nothing that's in their conscious memory. They could not access it consciously, but subconscious, they can go back, understand it, and then once they get the understanding, they have the power to shift it. So it's a similar type of a theme. Is getting to the root is how to it's somewhat of a diagnosis, but it's the understanding, and then it's like, aha, now we know how to deal with it layers at a time.
Correct. The onion, peeling that onion, for sure. Yep.
And I know one of the things about, you were talking about the magnets actually cause what's called a die-off of the infection, and there are some side effects that happen because of, and I have the same thing with clients when they come for those initial purging, if you will, hypnosis sessions. Sometimes people feel worse before they feel better. Can you talk a little bit about that, the Herxheimer effect?
Sure. Well, that is a big concern for a lot of my patients who have already been through rigorous Lyme treatment protocols, through antibiotics and herbal protocols, because once the infections start to die off, the body has to process that die off, and sometimes they can feel flu-like and just not so great. Well, I find the beautiful thing about the magnets is that because we are asking the body specifically of what it can handle, we don't see the it's called Herxheimer reaction or healing crisis as bad as it might be with a guess of a prescription. But I will say sometimes, like it was kind of a cute story. So I treated a patient the other day, and he's in his early 20s, and really this is new language for him. And he had gone home after being treated and was really into it. I treated him for something called Epstein-Barr virus, and he had it in his system for such a quite long period of time, affecting he's practically a pro athlete. And his mother reached out to me and said, yeah, Mom, she's nice and all. And it really was interesting. It just seemed quite impossible just from some magnets right when he got home. Well, she then texted me again about 6 hours later and said, yeah, I think I'm a believer. I slept for 3 hours straight, and I have never, ever napped during the day since I was little, because I'd warned him, like, you're probably going to feel a little tired after this, and he was out cold. So it's interesting just from some simple, very mild. These magnets, the ones I used on him, were not very strong. They have powerful results, and so he did feel that fatigue, which is that healing crisis you're talking about. And then once the body processes whatever we're killing off or whatever we're moving through the body, it responds beautifully, and the next layer comes up to the surface that we're supposed to treat. I tell people it's almost like a Pez dispenser. You take a piece out, and then that next one just pops right back up that you can't put the other one back in. Probably all have tried to you can't do it. You get the next one comes to the surface ready to go, ready to be cleared. So about 2 weeks later, is usually 2 to 3 weeks is usually the window to when the next session is ready to happen.
Sure. I know when you were treating me initially for the Lyme, and you didn't know this about me, but we went through all the different pairs for the different co-infections associated that were residual, and I had been treated allopathically, but all of a sudden you were putting magnets on my face, and you said, I'm finding strep. Why would I be finding strep? And you didn't know this, but I had a massive strep infection in my tooth that took out half of my jaw and 3 additional teeth. You had no idea. But here you are, and you're putting the magnets right at my jaw. And I'm thinking, holy cow, how could she know this? This is all based on dowsing, right? It's a very interesting technique that you use, which I think is fascinating. You guys are masters at dowsing.
Yeah, and I know people hearing this, since you already led in with the dowsing conversation. Muscle testing is or dowsing kinesiology, however you want to call it. It's a very, very accurate science. As long as the person testing is grounded and has no bias, has no emotional attachment to it, you almost can't care. It sounds. I say I care about you as a human, but I can't care about what I find, and it just allows me to take a really good look. So I do it sometimes through the feet, like some people have done it through the arm, but when you're scanning over, 600-700 infections, the arm could get tired. You can get a false read. So I check through the feet, and that right leg will actually, the hip area will contract and shrink up that right leg about 1 to 2 inches, so sometimes 3, and that will give me my yes or my no. And then I would say about 75% of the time I do use my pendulum, though, because it's just got such accuracy for me. And I have skeptics because I have people that have never even heard of any of this type of science. So sometimes I'll explain to them, well, it's like, the guys that go out in the fields with the forks and look for well water, they go, oh, yeah. I go, that's the same thing. That's how I'm going to find the best place on your liver.
And that's exactly what they were talking about on the Dowsers Convention this week. Many of them were talking about the geopathic stress that goes underneath buildings where there's sick buildings and people don't understand why, or a tree that's bent weird, and it's because of the geopathic stress underneath. It's a similar thing. And what's interesting is I had not made the connection until I was attending this and presenting at this Dowsers conference. I actually met a Dowser, Carl Carpenter, 30 years ago was when I first was exposed to dowsing, and he was using kinesiology and asking questions about, did this originate at birth? Did it originate from birth to 2 years old? And the body, it was amazing. The arm would go weak when it would, when you would get the yes. So it was very fascinating. And I still, if I'm going into the store or wanting to purchase something, I use a little finger dowsing technique.
Yeah.
Where I lock my fingers together and I ask it, I'll ask my body, is this good for me? And my yes is a strong, they're strong. When it's a no, they break apart. It's very obvious.
It's very.
Yeah.
And you know what, Lois, I'll tell you, because we had talked earlier about like any cute stories, and it's funny how I'm like, I don't know, I have really great patient stories I can say about what we've cleared and how we found it. But I think a really cute story happened last week. So my son, 17 years old, he, skeptical over the years of this, what he would call, you're kind of like your witchcraft mom, but as soon as he doesn't feel good, he's here, like calling, like, fix me, I don't feel good. Well, he had these clear retainers after getting his braces off that they're hard to keep track of. So he had lost one of them. And he said, I was up at the lake in New York, and I know I brought them home because I found one of them, and I've gone through everything in my closet. He was really panicked because as soon as the teeth get crooked, you can't recast them crooked. So anyway, so he 9:30 at night, what can you do? I said, oh, Josh, you know me. I don't usually do any kinesiology after 4 p.m. because I'm cooked. He's like, give it a shot. So I'm searching, and I'm searching, and I go, honey, I feel like it's not in New Hampshire. I'm really getting a strong no. He said it has to be because Grandma already looked up at the lake, and it's not at the lake. And I said, well, I'm letting you know I'm getting a big no for New Hampshire. I said, so I go, let's go through the house at the lake. So I go through room by room by room in my head, right, in my head. And I get a big yes for one of the rooms, and then I find, where is it? And I said, Joshua, it's under the bed in this room. He's like, they already, the other person already looked, and they didn't find it. He said, well, Grandma's going this week. She'll check. He calls me. I'm in the middle of dinner, and these are his exact words. He doesn't even say hello. He goes, you're a wizard.
I love it.
The retainer was under the bed.
I totally love it. And that's,
that was cool because I don't usually do that. I don't do that stuff. And even for my kids, I'm cautious. I'll have Julianne or Karen or someone else read for me because I'm just too close to them. Yeah.
Well, it just reminds me of my now 33-year-old son who, he used to, say, Mom, stay away from me with your weird stuff, because he always called me weird. But do you know that he's always the one that for any holiday, birthday, whatever, he will intuitively know exactly what I need.
I bet.
That will be the one odd gift that, he somehow, and then he'll just smile.
Right. Well, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree,
I know.
Right?
Yep. And my daughter is very intuitive as well. But again, she was very open to what I was doing. What's interesting is he was like, no, Mom, stay away. Weird. So, they being around us, they absorb it in different ways. It becomes sort of a new normal for them. And just being around the Dowsers, it was a very different energy than it was the hypnotist conference. But they were both saying the same things, just a little bit differently. I'm just delighted to see and know how many people are really getting into the concept of energy healing, different types of energy healing. And then listening to Dr. Rubik with her research, who's saying, I want this to be as well known as the Genome Project, how powerful the energy healing is. And that's what you're doing, is you're doing energy healing. You're using the intuitive dowsing of the body to give you the diagnosis. And then being able to use magnets, and you also do Reiki during the sessions as well, that it just accelerates the healing. Yeah.
Right. And it really is truly, it's science. If you see biomagnetic tear therapy practiced in Europe, it is clinical. You walk in, there's the table, you've stripped, then I think even over there, they strip down to a Johnny. It's very scientific because it's rooted in physics. This is definitely science and energy, but from an extreme physics perspective. So here it just looks a lot, different because it's in a more holistic situation, more more like a it's a softer and sweeter situation, I would say. Than it would be in the clinic, in a pure clinical setting.
It's less medical clinical, and yet many of the medical. I worked with a surgeon once who asked me to feng shui her office because she wanted it to feel more spa-like. So,
right.
So there's this melding that's happening, which I treasure. Yeah. So people who are listening, you're listening to Inspiring Hope with Lois Hermann, and I'm speaking with Janelle Salzman today. We celebrate different people who are making a difference in our world. And Janelle is one of these people who, when you meet her, I wish she was here in the studio. Of course, we're supposed to be radio only, but we're definitely doing, video and video on YouTube. And she just is one of these people that has it. She's just got that aura, that charisma around her, and her whole heart is about healing and how she can help people. And that's what I've known her. Goodness, Janelle, it's been at least 8 years now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Very lucky.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what other stories? Tell us, and we talked a bit about Lyme and alleviating people's fear of Lyme. If I've seen people, I knew one woman in particular who used to come in a wheelchair to see you from New York.
Yes.
And she got better and better and better. So Lyme is one of those major things that you definitely help people to heal through. What other things? You mentioned concussion. That's a kind of a new thing too, and many people have concussions. I mean, a child falling off a merry-go-round, which I don't even think they have merry-go-rounds anymore. But back when I was a kid, I remember falling on my head off a merry-go-round, of course. Or off the monkey bars or whatever. How many children doing gymnastics fall on their head?
Right. And I think I see it in the forefront too, because I have a hockey player in our house.
Yes.
We had a football player, and so we see that, and I see how they're strict. The sports area is strict now. The kids are off; they're on the bench. They're not allowed to play the way that they used to be able to play. So we, at our center, we do a pretty comprehensive concussion protocol. They first meet with Jackie, our nurse, and she triages and does full intake on the client, and she will do some craniosacral work to really align that energy system and get the cerebrospinal fluid flowing properly, because it gets compromised after a concussion. So they will see her, and then they will come to one of us for the magnet work, and we will, there's a specific protocol that we use that will help alleviate symptoms of the concussion, because you could have light sensitivity, nausea, difficulty thinking, balance issues, pain. So they will then go through the pairs that we have, and we will help that child, adult. Some people have chronic. Some people have had concussions from 30 years ago, and they will still see a lift in symptoms after that many years, believe it or not. So it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. And I had a swimmer last year who had gotten. She was a friend of one of my children, and she had gotten clocked in the head in gym class, and she couldn't return to swimming. And swimming, they have to get in the pool regularly in order to stay on their game. So treated her, and within 24 hours she was back. 24 to 48 hours she was back in the pool.
I know that
it's comprehensive.
I know that you and your team have sent many people to me when they've got that brain fog from different types of injuries, and then with what happens is your mind gets accustomed to this is my new normal, that I can't do this, I can't think this way. So with hypnosis, so you're treating the actual, or helping to treat the actual physical component of the body. And what I do is I retrain the mind to say, okay, yes, now I can do this. Now I can do this. This is my new normal. And so it's a wonderful symbiotic team to help shift those energies into, okay, the body's willing now. Now we've got to get the mental, emotional component. And then there's also, of course, the spiritual. We work on all of those levels, which is so exciting, comprehensive.
It's necessary. Yeah, it's a beautiful relationship. Absolutely.
Yes. So you also had a story about someone, I don't want to use her name. You said she had 87 medications, was paralyzed.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us that story. I love stories.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that... So basically, and it's interesting, too, because she has spoken openly on social media about hers, and she says, I'm an open book. So you can talk about mine. If it helps anybody, go ahead and do it. So she was very, very ill in her 30s, and she was diagnosed with Lyme disease, and she saw one of the top Lyme experts in the world. And she came to me probably a year and a half ago, maybe a little bit longer than that. And and thank goodness, I tell her that now. I said, thank goodness, I did not know much about you prior to you coming, because I might have not been able to be neutral, because I would have been a little nervous. She was on the Katie Couric show about her condition.
Wow.
I mean, we're talking, this is a big deal. And I said, I'm glad I didn't know a thing about you. So she came in, she was on probably over I think 87 meds as well, 87 meds. And when I talk about meds, I mean herbs and prescription medications. She was on 4 antibiotics when she came to me, and every time she had gotten paralysis multiple times. She was in a nursing home in her 30s. Yep.
Wow.
And every time she tried to go off of the antibiotics, she would become paralyzed again.
Wow.
She's scared to death. There's a huge emotional component of I can't go off of this because what will happen? So she was in the nursing home, and she made her way home, and then she had a church friend of hers actually had purchased her some sessions to come see me, because as we all know, a lot of my patients, by the time they find me, they've practically lost their home spending money trying to get themselves cured from these diagnoses, because they're so debilitating and they're very expensive. So she came to me, and we went through the first session. We muscle tested all of her herbs and her meds, and we were able to get down, maybe we took 10 off the first time, not too aggressive. So fast forward less than a year later, and we find out that the antibiotic is actually not treating the tick-borne illness. The antibiotic is keeping the strep infection, which, talking about strep, you talked about strep earlier.
Right.
So she was loaded with strep illness.
Wow.
And every time she went off the antibiotic, the strep crept back up, because the antibiotic had a hard time clearing it completely, and that affected her body, specifically her nervous system, and caused her to be paralyzed.
Wow.
So once we found this out, we treated the strep. And then I said, I think the body's saying, it's not what I think, but the body's saying you can go off of let's do one at a time.
Right.
Go off of one, nothing, no paralysis.
Wow.
She went off of the next, so within 3 to 4 months, she was off all of her antibiotics and no paralysis. And now all she takes now is, I think, a vitamin D and a biotin for her hair strength. And she is fully functioning, healthy as could be, and she's a yoga teacher. She does aerial yoga. So it's really, it's amazing. The body's brilliant. It knows how to self-heal. We just need to ask it the right questions.
And we have to get the things that are interfering with us out of the way.
That's right.
Get out of your own way. Get out of the way the different infections that are interfering with health. And that's the whole concept of holistic health, because you and I both come from a medical background. And as you said, we need medicine. However, we need to integrate. It has to be integrative, complementary. We've got to be able to look at the whole picture in order to celebrate whole or holistic health.
Correct.
So has there been anybody that has inspired you for the work that you do?
Oh my gosh. And it's so interesting, because it's hard to think about, because there's so many people, right? My kids inspire me daily, my partner inspires me daily, and my colleagues, my gosh, forget about it, all of you. It's amazing. And then I think back to the roots of really inspiration, and I think about my grandmother and my mom, and I think about that lineage of, they're just deep healers in their own way. They're not in medicine. They're just brilliant women who cared a lot about people. They just cared a lot. They do care a lot about people, put people first. So I think that's where I got my love of helping others and care. I don't want to say caretaking in like a dependent way, but really I feel best when other people are at their best. So I think it's just contagious. I watched it growing up, and that's my inspiration, I would say, is to continue. Because when you see someone else recover and feel better, and you've had a piece in that to help lead them, there's nothing like it. And I think that's what comes to mind the quickest, I would say, and the most deep. Yeah.
That's wonderful. I agree with you. When someone, reaches out to me and says, "Oh my gosh, I've slept for the first time in years," or "I feel better than I felt," that inspires me. That is what I feed off of. Is knowing in my heart that I've helped someone to help themselves, to have a happier, healthier life, and that really just feeds my soul. And this is a similar story, which I love. And for our listeners, you're listening to Inspiring Hope with Lois Hermann. You can join us every Sunday morning. We're here celebrating different amazing people who shine their light to help others. And today we're speaking with Janelle Salzman from New Hampshire Health and Wellness Center. And Janelle, tell me a little bit about how you feel that you make a difference for and inspire others. What do you do?
So I would say that I feel like I create space. I create enough space for the person in my office to really unload everything they're feeling, everything that they're thinking, and when they're able to do that, to really unload and have sacred space, like safe space to speak, that's where so much of the work is done, because it's not kept inside, and that's where there's trust that's developed. So there's a lot of trust, because I tell people, let it rip here, because if these walls could talk, you'd be in very good company. And they feel safe enough that it's not going anywhere. I don't share information, and it goes way beyond HIPAA just because it's the right thing to do. It's basically allows the person, if they can unload everything inside, I know exactly what we need to work towards or work on. So that's what I would say, is creating a really safe environment and allow people to just speak and be heard.
That's wonderful, and that is so true. Many people keep everything inside. They're too afraid to speak. Oftentimes, they've been raised to believe, speak when spoken to. You're not supposed to talk about that stuff. So when people have that safe place where they feel that they're actually being heard, that goes a long way. Just that in of itself towards healing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think I think overall in any industry, in any profession, if we give people enough time to giving the person time, it's not as rushed. I'm grateful that I have my own business, so I allow 2-hour evaluation and then a 1-hour follow-up session. So there's time to dig, where at first someone might come in and say they're fine, and then 15 minutes later something comes to the surface. So allowing the time to be heard, that's when the healing happens.
Absolutely. So what would you suggest to others to stay inspired and positive? What is your secret? What would you advise others to do? Because here you are, you've got 4 teenagers at home, and you're a busy businesswoman, and yet you always have a smile on your face. And those of you who've seen the picture, you always have little Ruby there. She's our our mascot. Yes. So tell us, what would you suggest to people to stay inspired?
I guess, and it's funny because I know you and I spoke a little bit, and just about the way this interview might go, and I'm going to talk off the cuff. I might have said something different before, but anyways, it doesn't matter. So I know for sure. So you say I come in with a smile. I always try and show a positive face, but at the same time, I'm human. I really feel everything everybody else feels, and I see it at home. We go through what we go through, and I think it's funny. My mother used to say that too. She'd say, everything will be better in the morning. Like fresh air, new day, things will feel better. I think there's just change will come. I believe in the overall goodness of people. Like that, I believe that underneath it all, our humanity, our people, they're kind. People are good. They're kind underneath it all. And I know it's hard to see in times like this also, but you do see a flip side of goodness that's come. So, and I also try and stay in the moment. That's not an easy thing for me because I'm a planner. I like to look ahead, and then I wonder, gosh, did I mess up something in the past? But if I can stay present, I thought about it last night when it's chaos. My two older ones came in, and they were starving at 10 o'clock at night, and I feel joy around, like, let's fire up the grill, let's cook some food, and I might think I'm bananas, but I'm going to miss it one day.
You are, yes.
I'm going to miss it. So I just say, stay in the moment as much as you can and look for the goodness in people. That's those. I guess that would be some inspiring words I could say.
I agree with you 100%. I still find if I need to sometimes inspire myself, I'll go back to those times when my children would spontaneously show up with friends and listen to the giggles and the conversations and stuff that they were going through that just to this day thrills my heart, because eventually they're grown and they're on their own, and when they show back up at your doorstep, it's always a treasure. So that's wonderful. And one of the things that I'd like to mention, you were talking about people, there's goodness in everyone. One of the messages that came very strongly through in the Chronicles was that there are more good people out there. It's just that the negative is amplified. So there, when in your day-to-day world, I would say 90% of the people you meet are positive. Is that not true?
Oh, for sure.
For sure. And then it's the negative that's shouting the loudest. And what we have to do is change our focus. Look at all the good and amplify the good. And care for the people who are struggling. Absolutely honor them, respect them, and do what we can to help, and yet soften that angst so that we can really amplify all of the wonderful, wonderful stuff.
Absolutely.
So are there any special messages or events that you'd like people to know about?
Oh, I don't think that I have nothing coming up now, but this would, I'm sure we can post something, or I can go through your site if something comes up. I know I have some irons in the fire of things I'm interested in teaching.
Good.
But as of now, with it just the condition of things and not as much in-person, I'm very much an in-person kind of person. So I will make things available, but I'd love to just get more messages out about also people's ability to, the body's ability to self-heal, and how we can give more information out there about it. But I just feel people hang tight. Things are gonna turn. There'll be improvements. Be around those you love and spend time, find some laughter. I found it so hysterical because about a month ago, about a month or plus ago, when things were really feeling heavy, I had a patient in, and it's actually the same person I was telling you earlier about all those medications. And we got laughing so hard about being so sick of cooking. And she found these 3-ingredient recipes. And with the ingredients, some of them were so kind of basic or so kind of gross. It's like, but the kids love it. It's delicious. And we were and the whole point of it is, we laughed so hard that we're like, well, we haven't done this in a while.
Yes.
We really haven't laughed like this. So it felt really, really good
and
to
laughter
have that kind of laughter.
Is the best medicine. Absolutely.
Yeah.
How many times have we heard that?
Yeah.
So we have just 2 minutes left, Janelle. How do people get a hold of you?
Sure. So the best way to get a hold of me, and to get a hold of even the other magnet practitioners at New Hampshire Health and Wellness, is you can go online at nhhealthwellness.com, or you can call us, and our wonderful office managers can take your call, and the number is 603-402-9134. And that's the best way. Just if you forget the address, just Google New Hampshire Health and Wellness Center in Nashua, and you'll find us, and we'll lead you in the right direction.
And I know you've been right there with me on this journey for Chronicles of Hope. Do you have any last messages or anything you'd like to share with people about the whole concept? You live it. You embody it. What would you suggest to people?
Oh, I just keep the faith, keep the hope. My daughter's name is Hope, so that's an easy one for me to talk about. And Lois, you're doing beautiful work. You really are. You keep tuning in. People keep tuning in to listening to Lois. You always have light, and you bring I've always told you this for as long as I've known you. You feel like a warm hug. I needed you years ago, and you were right there. You just offer a lot of peace and hope for people. So keep tuning in to Lois's work, for sure.
Thank you. And do you have a favorite quote you'd like to share with people?
Oh yeah, I do actually, and it's been in my memory, and I've used it many times over the years. And then the day came that the risk to stay tight in a bud was greater than the risk it took to blossom. I've always loved that
Beautiful.
quote.
So
You know, that
blossom,
pressure. Yeah.
grow and blossom, and everyone needs to do this. Thank you so much, Janelle. Thank you for listening and joining us today. And please join us next week where we will shine the light on another wonderful person. And if you know someone who you feel should be on the show, please reach out to me, loishermann.com. Meanwhile, thank you, Janelle. Look up, stay positive, and be the light in someone's day. God bless.